Silly Jojo will create your enemies' graves, and today I'm here to tell you how to build her best. My name is Juice, and let's get into it. So what echoes does this silly little painter desire? None other than 5-piece Empyrean Anthem. This new set is a massive boost to your DPS output. The majority of her damage is coordinated attacks, so getting those boosted by 80% is no laughing matter. The attack percent boost to the on-field character is greatly welcomed too. That's not even mentioning the 10% energy that the set provides. Easily Zhezhi's current best in slot set. 5-piece Moonlit Clouds would be your next best bet. You can enjoy some lovely energy from this too, and it's excellent for buffing your team's main DPS. Great choice. If you already have a really good Moonlit Cloud set for her, then you don't have to farm Empyrean. It's hardly any worse than it when you consider the entire team due to its high buffing, only falling behind by a few percent. 2-piece mix and match sets would include 2-piece energy percent, attack percent, and glacial percent. Her main animal will primarily be Hecate if you're using 5-piece Empyrean. The main value that you get out of Hecate is the increase to the equipper's coordinated attack damage, which, what do you know, this silly painter primarily deals in those. Otherwise, if you're using Moonlit Clouds, you're gonna want to use the Impermanence Heron. Some energy restoration for her, not to mention how she can buff her teammates' damage for the use of outro skills with this echo. Great choice. As for Zhezhi's main stats, simple. Go for 4 cost crit percent, 3 cost glacial percent, 3 cost glacial percent, 1 cost attack percent, and 1 cost attack percent. She's a sub DPS, so you're gonna want to build these stats to aid her damage output. She's capable of doing some really solid numbers, as she's the second highest damaging sub DPS in the game as of now. She only falls behind Yinlin in terms of damage, which is no laughing matter. As for Zhezhi's stat goals, simple. Go for 70 to 290 crit on Sig, 70 to 220 crit on non-Sig, 1800 to 1900 attack, and 1700 attack if you're on a crit percent 4-star, along with 125% DR. If you have her signature weapon or a 5-star rectifier that offers a ton of crit stats, then 70 to 290 will be perfectly achievable. Otherwise, 70 to 220 will be fine. If you go for enough ER on your Zhezhi, you'll end up only having room for about 1800 to 1900 attack on her, as 2000 attack is hard to achieve when aiming for 125% ER through substat rolls. Otherwise, if you're on a 4-star weapon that doesn't have an attack percent main stat, you can get away with even less attack again. Note that you generally want about 110% energy in Carlotta teams and 120% in Jinchi teams. 125% is a general recommendation that will work consistently across every Zhezhi team. Juice! Freezing Frost is above Moonlit Clouds for her own damage by a wide amount. Shouldn't we be using that instead? Not really, since as you can see, when you consider the entire team's damage, Moonlit Clouds catches up to the other sets immediately. So while her personal damage might suffer, the entire team will benefit greatly from Moonlit. Keep in mind that this becomes even more relevant if your Zhezhi is stuck on a 4-star rectifier, because then, buffing your more well-invested main DPS is going to be far more efficient than focusing on your silly painter's damage. An artist needs the right tools to create their work. So what'll Zhezhi's brushes of choice be? None other than Rime-Draped Sprouts. This is her tailor-made signature weapon, so naturally it works perfectly on her. A ton of basic damage bonus in that passive, which checks out considering that Zhezhi's coordinated attacks count as basic attacks. Certainly her best in slot pick. Stringmaster isn't too far behind either. It's one of the most universally powerful weapons in Wuthering Waves, hardly falling behind her main signature weapon. It boasts a stupidly high amount of crit rate, not to mention the additional damage-based stats that the passive provides. Fantastic alternative which is nearly on the same level as her signature. Cosmic Ripples is not to be underestimated either. You get a bit of energy, plus some basic attack bonus which Zhezhi really enjoys. The amount of attack percent you get out of it is no joke either. Splendid option for her. Augment will 100% be your best in slot 4-star option. A tidy amount of crit rate paired with a crud ton of attack. It all suits her wonderfully. Use it if you have it for sure. Fusion Accretion works very nicely as well, offering the silly painter some resonance energy and attack percent. It's not too far behind Augment either. Jinzo Keeper is a little cope. It'll work fine if you have nothing else, not bad by any means. The new craftable might be on your mind too, since it came out recently. It won't work on her that well. It's restricted to Carlotta teams because the fancy Mafia lady can apply debuffs, whereas Zhezhi cannot. Not to mention that the debuffs that Carlotta applies don't last long enough in order for Zhezhi to come on field and take advantage of them. So unfortunately, it's more or less a cope stat stick. If you truly don't have anything else, then Guardian Rectifier can serve as your Omega Copium replacement until you're able to obtain one of her 4 to 5-star options. Neat. There are plenty of weapons here which you can use effectively. Even if you're primarily using her for her buffing, helping out her own damage isn't too bad of an idea either. So who'll join Zhezhi in her quest for creativity? None other than the esteemed second daughter of the Montelli family, Carlotta. It's a match made in the Imperator-ordained heaven. The Mafia Lady is a Glacio DPS whose kit heavily revolves around dealing skill damage. And what do you know? Zhezhi is the best Glacio and skill buffer in all of Wuthering Waves. She boosts the Mafia Lady's performance by a genuinely insane degree. The difference between having and not having a Zhezhi for your Carlotta is extremely noticeable. Certainly one of the most important synergies that the Silly Painter has, especially when you consider that the Montelli Lady has the highest single target damage output in the entire game at the moment. Super impressive combo. Otherwise, she'll work splendidly with the Magistrate of Jinzhou. You see, the almighty executor of Jue's will greatly enjoys characters who can support her with coordinated attacks. That just so happens to be Zhezhi's favorite flavor of damage. They work perfectly in a team together. The only real note here is that you should always pre-cast Zhezhi's ultimate so that her buffs will last throughout the entirety of Jinxi's rotation. She's easily the Magistrate's best install support, not to mention the amazing ease of use that the Silly Painter holds over Jinxi's other potential second slot teammates. Truly, great stuff. Where are all of my fellow Changli enjoyers at? Get over here, since I must spread the good word of Hypercarry Changli. This is by no means the most optimal way to play the Phoenix Lady. However, if you wish to play her as a main carry so that you can admire that dashing design of hers, which is very understandable, then Zhezhi will assist you with such a goal. Gotta love being the best skill buffer in Wuthering Waves, eh? Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to mention a character that literally nobody has built, Ling Yang. This character is awful and obviously very few people are intending to play him. He's cooked, I fear. However, with that being said, Zhezhi is still his best install support. If you care about Ling Yang and want to clear with him, then sure, you can make that happen a little easier by using the Silly Painter with him. If a character does Glacio or skill damage, you can assume that Zhezhi will work with them. Alright, time for this Silly Painter's main rotation. Caster ult, normal attack 3 times, user skill, heavy attack, user skill, and jump cancel 3 times. I know what you may be wondering. Jump canceling? What's that? Well, it's very easy. When Zhezhi appears after you press her skill again, jump immediately to cancel the animation. This seriously shortens her setup time, making her a far more intuitive unit to play. This is super easy tech to learn and is easy for anybody to nail down after a couple of attempts. Yet how does this Silly Painter work? Well, as always, Wuthering Yap loves to spew words at you on the Forte screens, so I'll be breaking things down to their essentials. Her basic attack will deal 3 simple Glacio strikes. Not much else to add here. As for her skill, if you have 2 out of 3 bars of her Forte segment full, which you can generate for doing basic attacks and intro skills, you can summon 2 entities. You need to do your special heavy attack to generate her 3rd one. Tapping her skill multiple times will teleport you to their location and have Zhezhi deal Glacio damage to the enemy, which counts as coordinated attack damage. As for her liberation, she'll now deal coordinated attacks with your on-field character while her ult is up. These count as basic attack damage. This ability will either last for 30 seconds, or up until you've done 21 coordinated attacks via her ult state. Her intro skill is very simple, she will just deal some Glacio damage. Its main use is charging up her Forte bar. Her outro skill is where her skill and Glacio buffing lie. The buffs are really significant. Currently, Carlotta is her best synergy in the entire game due to being able to take full advantage of the synergy. As for her Forte circuit, strap in, ladies and gentlemen, because there's a whole lot to explain here. She has a special heavy attack that gets triggered after you use her skill, which will summon her 3rd skill construct. That's the main use case for it. It's her Forte that allows her to jump to her skill summons and deal some damage when she does that. She gains a stack every time she does so. When you get 2 of these stacks, she'll deal an even stronger instance of coordinated attack damage. Her Forte bar stacks are referred to as a flatus, which she gains from doing basics and intro skills. As for her inherent skills, simple. Her I1 will allow her to stack up a bunch of attack percent for consecutive uses of her skill. Great stuff. This is splendid for her damage output. Zhezhi's I4 is pretty nice for ult-enjoying characters, since she's able to give them a good chunk of resonance energy. Nice. As for her Forte priority, simple, go for this. The reason as to why you don't level her skills or basics is simple, because all of the important scalings for her abilities are embedded within her Liberation and Forte circuit. So this makes Zhezhi super resource friendly, as you only really need to level 2 of her abilities. Surely you won't let a face as cute as this become a starving artist, so let's talk sequences. This eases up Zhezhi's ER requirements, making her easier to build. The additional crit rate is quite the blessing too. Splendid S1. You can now proc up to 27 ult coordinated attacks instead of only 21. Real nice increase to your personal damage. Another nice increase to your damage output via boosting her attack. I have nothing much else to add here. Some universal attack buffing is very welcome. This expands Zhezhi's buffing profile, making her an even more valuable teammate than before. Lovely S4, but a bit costly since it's all the way up here. This increases the amount of coordinated attacks that Zhezhi does every time she jumps, so you get even more damage out of her. Good stuff. Another boon to the painter's damage output. While this is obviously good for her, I wouldn't chase it unless you're her #1 simp. Because honestly, there's much better S6s out there, such as Jinxi and Camellia. I wouldn't vertically invest in Zhezhi all that much, to be honest. Get the signature weapon or string master and stop there. If you insist on additional copies, then get no more of an S2 in my opinion. Zhezhi is an S tier character, and I refuse to believe otherwise. I personally think that she deserves a spot as one of the top 5 best Wuthering Waves units in the entire game, but that's a video for another day. You really can't go wrong with this unit. High sub DPS, perfect ease of use, she's free to play friendly, and most importantly, she's a great buffer for Wuthering Waves' best girl, Carlotta. Certainly let me know about what you think of her down below. Will you be building her now that she's returned? I'd love to hear your thoughts. As always, I have a ZZZ second channel. Head on over and subscribe if you're interested in some fun, silly ZZZ content. Hopefully this video was able to get your Zhezhi drawing her enemies' death scenes. This has been Juice, signing out, and since we're talking about an artsy character, let me ask you this. Were you a paper eater kid, or a marker sniffer kid, or perhaps even a crayon eater?